Today's video, we're going to talk about breaking 80. If you want to try and break that 80 barrier, in today's videos, I'm going to be using millions of data points captured by ShotScope. This video isn't sponsored by ShotScope. They have no say in the outcome of the decisions I make of things that you should improve, but they certainly have shared with me some of their data to help you break 80. Should be a fun one. Let's start with some 50 yards and in ideas if you want to bust through this 80 barrier. So I'm 49 yards out and you'll see the proximity, average proximity from 50 yards in that you want to try and get. See if I can get this one inside that. So for this shot, it's kind of blind, it runs away from me, the green. I mean, the green is wet, so that's going to help me, but if I get this inside my average proximity for me from 50 yards, being at basically 49 yards, would class as a win. So my expectations aren't massive here in relative to my average, but I'm still aware of them. Just a little left. Oh yeah, that could be good. And I'm going to get an accurate measurement of how far away this ball is. So this shot from 50 yards is 16 foot 8 inches. That helps. So for me, from that situation, I would have wanted to pitch it closer, but I was also happy. There's lots of slope here that I've got to deal with. I couldn't see the bottom of the pin from where I was, and I was in the rough. It's a very narrow target as well. So yes, it's outside my average proximity, but it was good enough, bearing in mind if I'm able to get in other situations and really hammer down how close you can chip the ball. Think of it this way. Look at this next stat. How many of the 50-yard in shots are you getting within 6 feet? This one's killer for trying to get you down, because if you think about that first pitch, I was at the extreme end of that range. I was 49 yards with lots of situation going on. I'm now just off the green over here. I want to be getting this within 6 foot. So obviously pitching it closer, key skill, but when you're in positions where you should be able to capitalise, making sure you're hitting it within 6 foot. So making sure you're a good 1 and a bit paces. I like to try and keep it 1 pace around a hole, and then I know I'm in that 6 foot range. Getting your game really sharp from around the green in these basic areas, so plenty of green to work with, not too bad a lie. Working towards 1 step away. Get up. So not quite my 1 step. To be fair, it probably is within 6 foot, but spending the time to sharpen this area up of your game is going to really take the pressure off the other parts. And skills that we need to see you doing is you need to be able to really control loft, you need to be able to control launch, you want to start seeing landing points, you want to be reading these like putts, you want to be playing these like someone who's trying to get it within 6 foot. If we can up your 6 foots, if we can keep that proximity coming in from 14 and get a lot more within 6 foot, you're going to lower your handicap. Focus on this area, peoples, it's important. Par 5s. Par 5 score an average of 80 shooters. If you can push this down near a 5, you're going to have a great chance of consistently breaking this barrier you want to. Now, this is quite generic. There are so many ways of playing par 5s better. Let's just talk through some of the ideas that you might be doing already or might not be to try and push that score lower on the par 5s. So 2 strategies we could go for off the tee, which hopefully you're already trying to do, is as far up there in play as possible, or even just in play, depending on what your skill levels are. So if you can't reach this 1 in 2, this is a 500 yard playing par 5 and you're hitting it 200 yards off the tee, or 220, 230, in play is going to be your crucial point. Now I can reach this 1 in 2, so I want in play and as far up there as possible. Plenty of room, so I might hit my tee shot with a little bit more juice, knowing I've got room up there to still get there even if I hit the rough, which that one might have done if it's not carried. So I've not carried through onto the fairway. I've got about 230 middle and it's soft, 216 front. But I've got a tree in front of my way. This is a great example of something I think that's just not practiced, and if you put some time towards this, you would push yourself above the other 80 shooters. So I'm still going to go for this green because I can feel like I can move the ball 20 yards through the air with cut spin around this tree. And if I don't, I feel like I'm going to keep the ball enough in play to then try and rely on that 50-yard in stat that obviously we're working on. So I've got a 3-wood, which is too much club, but I'm putting so much cut on it, it's going to take pace off. The ball's a bit below my feet, which should help it cut. Wet rough is making me think it's a little unreliable, but it's a pretty decent lie. Around the tree. I am still getting up there. If you haven't got these options in your bag, it's definitely something you should be thinking about improving. Keep going, keep going, keep going. Didn't get enough cut. Again, it's going to show how important that 50 yards in stat is, isn't it? So I'm about 19 yards away, and now setting yourself realistic barriers within the confines of the kind of data that you're trying to push through. This chip isn't easy, but there's certainly much harder ones out there where I need to be getting it inside the 14-foot average proximity. This one, I kind of am now looking at 6 and 10 foot. 6 foot I'd be happy, 10 foot I would be accepted. Over that I would be slightly disappointed. But there'll be plenty of other situations where, like the first, 16, 15, even 20 foot was kind of accepted. Having these real expectations based on some facts might just allow you to do something that's really important in golf, which is manage your emotions, and then you're going to be playing the better shots each time rather than maybe taking something on that you shouldn't. Pulled it a little, but it's good for distance. Let's measure that one. I reckon that's inside my 10 foot. I'm just going to give it a measure. Again, trying to work off some reality, because I do find, so that's 7 foot. Actually, it's 8. I do find as well what happens with when it comes to stats, you got to be careful. If your measurements aren't precise enough, so if you're not editing it enough when you get home on whatever device you're using, if I mark that down as a 10 foot or a 7 foot putt, the stats will be quite different from the actual distance, which is 8 foot. So just doing it sometimes just to try and make sure you're calculating the actual distance and learning how far they look, so you don't have to keep measuring every time you play, might just give you some better data. Now there's the other thing as well. Remember, other parts of your game can always balance anything out. If I'm going to continue holding putts like this, which I won't, it's randomized, then how good my second shot was here was kind of not as important, because as long as I've got 100 yards in, I can probably hit it to around 10-ish foot to 20 foot. But if you want to take the strain off different parts of your game, balancing it with a good balanced skill set will only help. So a nice par 5 checklist for you. Read the par 5. Is it one you can give more beans to or not? Or do you just need to hit it in place subject to your second shots? Learn how to maneuver that ball a good distance with your second shots, even when you get it slightly out of position. So key on par 5s. People get out of positions and then they just haven't got the skills to move it close enough to the green to then be able to hit it to a certain proximity. And just work on your 200-yard approach shots. So even if that's not reaching the green, being able to put them in a position, strike them well enough to allow the third one to then capitalize. 200-yard shots for amateurs, certainly people trying to break 80, is one of the standout stats compared to better players that lets them down. Checking your bag, practicing that area, getting some lessons in that area is key for this one. So some of the skills of trying to hit more greens in regulation, and again this is quite a generic one, obviously putting the ball in play off the tee would be a killer one, but I mean we've got 2 shots here, one's on the fairway and one's in the rough, they're both exactly the same distance. Let me just talk you through some of the ideas that I would play from these 2 shots, and they're quite different lies. And if you haven't got these skills, which lots of 80 shooters I notice don't really use these skills enough, if I can up my percentage from that rough of hitting the green, maybe that's where I might sneak my extra few greens from. So let's play the fairway ball to kick us off. This is one I'm expecting to hit the green. Now this is a small target as well, so it's 150 to the front, which is the yardage I'm going to play, and it is downwind, slightly downhill, so actually I'm going to play a 145 yardage. So I'm going to hit a nice easy 9. It's a good shot, this left side, but it should catch the green. Yeah, just on the left side, perfect. Now from the rough, I'm playing now for a little bit of a flyer, a low spin ball. So I'm now actually going to play a wedge. Oh yeah, and that ball's come out hot. So I've taken club off to try and just get this on the green. Oh, that one might even be closer. Managing those different lies are crucial to hitting more greens. So this one's the one out the rough. And what's interesting with this one is it landed short of the green and it's run on. This is the one from the fairway. Remember, this was a 9, that was a wedge. This one literally landed here and stopped. So not only am I managing the clubbing from the different lies, I'm really trying to manage the rollout, the unpredicted side of how that ball might react when it hits the ground. I'm trying to work in that best scenario, those best possibilities. And that's a skill I really see amateur golfers definitely not take enough into account. Oh, I hit a 7-iron 150 is a common idea, but how much of that is roll on average? You need to know these things if you want to hit more greens. A greens like this that's pitched from front to middle quite extreme, also from a bit to right to left, where it gets really narrow at the back. A green that's demanding that I understand how my ball reacts when it hits the ground. It's one that's easily missed, because if you don't understand that your 7-iron has got 10 yards, 15 yards of roll on average to get you to your 150, well, you might be catching that front bunker. You might be hitting that downslope and shooting off, or catching the left-hand trap because you're just not quite reading in the slope of the green and how much that ball's going to roll. Those two shots really illustrate that well. One landed and stopped, one I had to play the roll. I changed my club, fractionally changed my aim to the one out the rough a tiny bit more to the right. But what I'm doing is trying to not miss the green. Not all 150 shots are equal. And often for amateurs, what I find is that they see 150 on their shot scope or on their measuring device, and what they then do is they reach for that 150 club. There's often more maths to be done. Now the last ideas, and I don't think this comes as a surprise. Get rid of free putts. And I know that sounds really basic, but I would say out of all the ideas from the amateurs I've worked with over years, this is certainly in the top 3 of the low hanging fruit. One of the easiest ways for you to reduce your free putts, and this sounds crazy, I know, this is wild and out there, is to simply practice it more. Practice putting, practice the skill of holding out, of long putting, reading greens, trying to miss on the high side to see if you're an overborrower or an underborrower as an average, trying to get it out there up on that high side. You simply can't practice these skills enough. I don't know many golfers who are practicing these skills too much. Trying to not free putting around, trying to get those free putts to average out so you're in the 20s or above holes before you hit a free putt, is going to smash you below 80 more than you realise. Distance control is one of the big ones I'd like to see people practice a load more, and that can be done from long distance, but distance control also applies on shorter distance putt. This is an uphill right to left putt. I might try and just drop some in high right, see if I can just, so that dropped in into the middle to the left side. So do I want to hang it out more to the right, or do I want to hit harder to get it into the right side? I wouldn't do that so much when I'm playing. I'm just going to try and hit the biggest target. But when I'm practicing, I will practice dropping the ball in certain sides of the hole when I get within a holding distance. Even just practicing more putts from the edges of the green into the hole if it's somewhere near the middle, to practice that long distance putting. Honestly, this is the lowest hanging fruit out there amongst some others that we've mentioned today. It's certainly maybe the one I think people just don't practice enough, maybe get bored practicing it, those kind of ideas. And I think, again, if you're that trying to break 80 shooter and you've got someone doing this and you're not, I would put my money on them. Get on the green more often. Get those free putts down, people. Thanks for watching. Let me know if this helps. Post comments down below. Let me know what your lowest score is and what goals you're trying to achieve. I've got a break 100 video if you want to watch that one. We'll put links down below and maybe up here. And let me know if you want me to do a break 90 video as well, for if you're watching this and you're someone trying to break that score. Maybe even a 75 or 80 could be fun, couldn't it? Might be a bit of pressure on me, that one though. As always, make sure you're subscribed to the channel if you're not subscribed already. If you are subscribed, ring the bell down there. Just more of you ringing that bell all helps out. And make sure you hit that thumbs up button if you want to see more of this kind of video. Thanks for watching.